With Crusader Kings 3 being out over a year, I'm certain there's many people out there that have already mastered the mechanics of the game, and for the most part, find the game a breeze. Well, hopefully if you use these mods together, it will bring you back and allow you to feel some of that challenge once again. And I did want to quickly say, if you are new around here, consider subscribing. And if you do enjoy this content and want to directly support me, consider becoming a channel member. You get perks like a thank you at the end of every single video, and a special Discord rank and room. Anyway, let's jump straight into it. First, we have MND balance, making empires actually work for it. And as the title suggests, it makes empires a little less stable with a few big changes. The first major change affects armies, as their time to raise and dismiss has been massively increased. This will mainly affect larger rulers due to them having so many more levies, and this doesn't affect your men-at-arms raise time, so smaller kingdoms will have a bigger head start to get in position. My favourite change to the levies and men-at-arms though is that they will now take much longer to regenerate. This will make larger empires have to be more aware when picking battles, as usually in the base game you can just jump from war to war while defending peasant uprisings without really feeling the loss of your soldiers. This will just make each major loss much more apparent. And the last thing is lowering armies' movement speed on the map, so bigger empires will definitely benefit from making smaller armies to react to the situation, rather than what I seem to do that always seems to work, is just to make a massive army and respond to everything that way. Another thing is the change of children and succession, as characters will now have a lot less children, and it will begin to reduce a bit faster, and the chance to become pregnant is also lower. And childbirth will now be a lot more dangerous, with a big increase to the chance of the mother or child dying. And I like these sort of changes a lot, as it makes the children you have so much more important, as you won't be getting as many, so the unfortunate death of your heir could leave you in a really tough situation. These are the two major changes you probably will notice while playing, but it does mention a few more that are aimed at making managing a large empire harder, making things like calling to war and making it harder to fully convert your realm to one religion, with vassals being much less likely to convert. And how opinions are decided has been changed, like the cultural difference modifier now loses a lot more opinion. There's just loads of little changes here that'll make ruling the giant empire you eventually create that much harder. The next mod on this list should be loaded above the MND mod, as they do similar things, but this way they just work well together. And if you want to see the load order I used, I'll put it in the comments below. So the first change I'll quickly mention, but it should be overwritten by the first mod. So the higher morality mod increases childbirth rate, so more children are born. But why I use this mod with the last mod is because you will get the decreased birth rate with the disease changes of this mod, which will make the game so much more risky and challenging. So this mod adds many new diseases to the game, some of which will target children, but all of them that do will be under the same name, pneumonia. As they say, it's just a collective term rather than adding a bunch of other names, but it works all the same. So you will see this a lot more often, causing death to many people around the world. There's also some changes to how medical treatments work, and these two mods together is just amazing for upping the difficulty. The fact you get less children, but now with diseases being way more common and deadly, so your court physician will need to be good to help keep your family alive if you are going to survive another generation. And number 3, we have Inherichance. This will allow you to have more control over who you play next, rather than just playing the primary heir every single time. So you do get 2 new settings to change. The first, partition inheritance. This will change who you will actually play. The first option is the alia jacta est. This will make your planning way more of a task, as you will play as a random heir. So you need to get a higher education across all of your children, as it could be any of them. There's also the underdog challenge, and it's the hardest one for sure. You will always play as the child that inherits the least amount of holdings. So each time you die, you start as the weakest child. This will challenge you a lot to see if you can regain full control of the land for yourself. There is another setting which does the opposite. You can always play as the person who inherits the most, but we're not here for that, are we? Now the second option allows you to change how the money will be passed down, and this is the reason why I chose this mod over something like After Death, as that does just like the holdings and stuff. Basically, you get 7 different options, from splitting the money evenly between all children, or all the money going to the primary heir, or all to the heir that gets the least holdings. But I think the best for actually making it harder would be egalitarianism. That gives all landed heirs the same, as it's a bit more balanced, so you actually do have some money. Paired with the underdog challenge will be the perfect combo for upping the difficulty in your next playthrough. Next up, we have a fairly new mod, harder difficulties, that introduces 2 new levels, hard and very hard, and I actually like the way they handle the difficulty in this mod, without it feeling like the AI is outright cheating. The very hard setting basically just doubles the effect that hard has. So for hard, the player gets a -5 general opinion, 25% more stress gain, a slight decrease to their success chance, and a -5% vassal taxes, and -10% vassal levies. So these are just the changes that will directly affect you. But they also buff the AI, with a 10% bigger levy size and small changes to things like vassal taxes and vassal levies, and a +1 domain limit. But I think the big change is the -25% cost of them hiring mercenaries and maintaining their men-at-arms and levies. This just allows them to hold quite a few more troops, making the rulers around you a lot more dangerous, and I think this will slow you down drastically. Now, the AI do also get a +10% vassal opinion. They say this is to help keep AI empires and kingdoms hold together better, decreasing their chance of revolt so they will fracture less, and on the other hand, lowering others' opinions of you, to promote more revolts in your land. I think this is a pretty clever way of giving the AI some much needed buffs without making them unstoppable gods that just take you down without a fight. As well as that, the AI will be more likely to declare wars, and especially for their de jure targets, so you have to look out for that too. Next up, I put Vassals to Arms. This can be a sort of double-edged sword in terms of difficulty, so you can decide if you want this or not, but I do think it makes sense. Basically, vassals of, let's just say, a king will have an event when their liege gets attacked, and they will decide if they want to help their liege or not. It does depend on a few factors, like if the vassal will lose land because of the war, they will always join, which makes perfect sense, as why wouldn't you? Or say if a vassal really liked their liege, and this war would actually change who their liege is, they will be much more likely to actually defend then too. This will obviously make your later game wars to conquer new lands so much more difficult, as you could potentially face off with many rulers rather than just the one. So with this mod, you will have to be more careful on who you declare war on. With some of the other mods on this list, I think less old wives is essential, and it is recommended by the higher mortality mod. Without going too deep into the exacts of the mod, it adds marriage penalties to certain things. Like if a woman is unfertile, then there's a big opinion penalty. This just makes it so the AI will marry off their children to other people who they can actually have children with, so whole dynasties don't just fall apart due to the AI being stupid. And that's just kind of the gist of this mod, but it's super helpful, and I suppose in a way it does increase the difficulty in the fact that dynasties are much more likely to live on longer. So next up, we have Submission to Authority, and it is a mod that I've covered a few times on the channel, but I think is perfect for adding a little bit of difficulty to the game, as you have quite a bit more to manage with your vassals. So the main feature is the new submission value you will see on your vassals page. Now, for feudal governments, the more the contract favours the liege, the higher their submission value will be. For tribal, they like rulers with fame, and a clan vassal submission is increased by opinion. Now, all of these are very important to keep higher, as their submission values and how much of your land they control will decide what level of authority your realm has. You can't just change it for prestige like you usually can, so getting as many vassals to 100 submission as possible will be the only way to reach absolute authority. Now, I really do think this helps difficulty, like giving you more to think about when it comes to vassals, and it stops you imposing stricter rules on them unless you manage submission. The last mods on this list are more game rules, with some game rules and some game rules core. That was a bit of a tongue twister, but these mods are great to fine-tune the exact difficulty you want. And remember, if you have any issues with these mods, feel free to come and join the Discord and ask for help. Anyway, these mods together will give you a crazy amount of customization on the way your game will play. I would suggest bumping AI aggressiveness to high. It's a good balance, as if you move it up too much, it just feels like you're in non-stop wars. Now, with the Some Game Rules mod, you get 2 options for everything, so you can fully choose what affects you and what affects the AI. You could give boosts to the AI's development growth or how long it takes them to build things, meaning you will have to be fast to keep up with the ever-evolving world around you. Or simply boost their lifestyle XP, meaning rulers will increase their skills faster than yours. Just with these 2 mods, there's so much you can tweak depending on what kind of difficulty you're after. So I think they're perfect for making the game harder, but it's definitely something you have to check out for yourself and see what you actually want to use. I'm sure I missed some mods that make the game overall more difficult, but I've checked and all of these work great together and I've had no issues whatsoever. And I would love to hear what you guys think about this list. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and of course I want to say a massive thank you to all the channel members. We have Bayek Von Quark, Arcane, Damien, Intermia1, Irrelevant, and Luke Jarrett. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, consider subscribing if you want to keep up to date with more things Crusader Kings 3. Anyway, hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.